later in this episode. If for no other reason, Riley's Farm should be around because we're not woke weirdos. We are patriotic Americans. We're not saints by any means, that's for sure. But we do believe in the American experiment. Hi folks, Jim Riley here at Riley's Farm. It's May 2nd, 2025. We have raised $10,868. That's incredible. Some very generous donations. We appreciate that very much. We want to get to $100,000. So you'll get these little news blurbs from me from time to time. I hope they don't annoy you if you've already given, but we really do need to answer some major financial strains on the business. So if you enjoy Riley's Farm, if it's been a good memory for you, consider giving a gift at rileysfarm.com/strong. Where appropriate, given the platform, I'll have that link in the description. Little farm and family news. I played Patrick Henry 3 times this week. I'm getting too old to play Patrick Henry. He was 39, I'm 65. And I've never really looked like Patrick Henry. But I just love that speech. I'm not sure if it moves other people as much as it does me. But there's a line towards the end where Patrick Henry says, "Our brethren are already in the field." And he's referring to the fact that other people have done the heavy lifting for the revolution. They've sacrificed their lives, and he's appealing to his fellow Virginians to join the fight. It's just a very, very poignant summation of the issues that were facing them at that time. And sometimes I think it's therapeutic just to repeat truth wherever you find it. There's a wonderful verse in the Bible. I think it's Proverbs 28:2. "The wicked flee when no man pursues, but the righteous are bold as a lion." It's good to kind of like reprogram yourself from time to time and remind yourself about the truth. We had a new granddaughter. I'm not allowed, of course, to post pictures, but that's our 10th grandchild, and we have 2 more on the way. So we'll have 12 grandchildren. Like many families, there's some estranged members of our family, which we're sadly no longer in touch with. But even if I have differences or they have differences with me, we're very glad to have brought such capable people into the world. They're good citizens, good people, and I think that Americans need to have more babies. It's obvious to me, and it's not obvious to the wacko environmentalists and the nihilists and the humanists, but there is no system in nature that doesn't celebrate productivity and reproduction. Anyway, we have some events coming up this Sunday, May 4th, 3 to 5 in the Colonial Tavern will be a gospel sing. It's free. There's no charge. You just come, and if you like congregational singing the old hymns, gospel sing on Sunday, May 4th, 3 to 5 p.m. in the Colonial Tavern. We'll have some refreshments and some musicians to help us stay on pitch. We have Mother's Day coming up on May 10th, 12 to 3 p.m. We'll have a link in the comments. Also, we'll have Rockabilly. We've finally announced our date for Rockabilly. It's August 23rd. You can go onto the Riley's Farm site and book your tickets. We have a new introduction here at Riley's Farm. It's we're going to use Ticket Spice for our ticketing from now on, and that will allow you, in some context, to choose your own seat, and also to buy event insurance, so that if something happens last minute, our tickets are not refundable. So you can insure your event if you have some last minute complication, or there's a weather complication or an accident. You can get a refund on your ticket. So try that out at the Rockabilly link on our site. I want to talk a little bit about why I think Riley's Farm needs to remain in place. And that's because of something called institutional history. And institutional history includes national parks, it includes nonprofit foundations like Williamsburg and places like Plymouth and Gettysburg. And Those institutions, there's just no polite way of saying this. They've been corrupted. They've been corrupted by the woke mind virus. Um, and the way I'd like to introduce this topic is to imagine that you have a family conflict that at one point you did something you're very not you're, at one point you did something you're not proud of, and you apologize for it. It really was a major affront. Maybe you stole money from your parents, or maybe you um, said some things in a heat of an argument that were just really hurtful. And then you apologize for it. You genuinely apologize, and the victim of your cruelty, accepts your apology. But for the rest of time, that incident is always brought up. It's always remembered. It always comes up when people are remembering the past. So because it always comes up, it's never really forgiven. And I have the same reaction to slavery in the American context. There's no excuse for the Middle Passage or for the cruelty of slavery. Slavery had to be brought to an end. It was an institution that was widely practiced in the 19th century, and for all of history, in some parts of Africa, it's still practiced. It's an ugly institution. It had to come to an end, and I think that Christian reformers were very instrumental in bringing it to an end. 600,000 men died bringing that social evil to an end. But it has been brought to an end. And it's one sin out of many virtues in the American experiment. We are the heirs of Magna Carta, the English Bill of Rights. We are the heirs of the American Bill of Rights, freedom of expression, freedom to protect yourself, freedom to be free of unwarranted searches and seizures. These are all freedoms that most of world history has gone without. Most world history is a history of absolutely brutal oppression. And along comes America, along comes the English tradition, and suddenly we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. That is worth celebrating. And if you don't celebrate it, you're an ingrate. If you're living in slavery that has been abandoned and abolished for more than 100 years, and you're still making that critique of America, you don't see the virtues of what's been accomplished in this country. And a lot of institutional living history and museum culture is obsessed with this woke nonsense. I remember I first had my hint of how corrupt the National Park Service was years ago. We went to the cliff dwellings, the Anastasi's, and there was a timeline, a handout given to all the guests. And all the major religious figures of world history were listed on the timeline, with the exception of, can you guess, the birth of Christ, how we date our time, was left off of the timeline. Couldn't put any reference to Christianity, but you could put references to Buddhism, to Muhammad. The only thing that could be left out was Christ. I've got some links. I have some links in the description below, but there's from the Heritage Foundation and Real Clear Politics. But there's one quote by Brenda Hafera that I think is worth reading. This is from an article in the Heritage Foundation from 2023. Quote, "Colonial Williamsburg is at a crossroads. It can follow James Madison's home of Montpelier, whose leadership now has no interest in honoring a, quote, dead white president and a dead white president's constitution, unquote, and seeks to use historic sites to reinterpret America as a nation defined by white privilege and systemic racism. Similarly, at Williamsburg, the contributions of George Washington during the Revolutionary War are de-emphasized in deference to an obsession with the problems of slavery in the 18th century. There's no problem at all interpreting slavery in the 18th century, but if you don't celebrate the victories of the 18th century, because you have some resentment for the errors of the time that completely clouds your view of the accomplishments of the time, then I would call you an ingrate. You live in a nation that affords you due process, that affords you the right to protect yourself, the right to speak. There are places in the world, if you speak against the leadership of your country, you're going to be behind barbed wire tomorrow. So I'm so tired of these institutional limp-wristed weirdos who run these big institutions who don't know how to celebrate or be grateful for the gifts of their ancestors. So if for no other reason, Riley's Farm should be around because we're not woke weirdos. We are patriotic Americans. We're not saints by any means, that's for sure. But we do believe in the American experiment, and we do believe it's critical for children to hear the accomplishments of those who went before them. And anyone who doesn't agree with that, I'm sorry, you're a dirty communist, and you should hang up your living history spurs. So, if you can find it in your heart to give to Riley's Farm, to keep us afloat, I am not ashamed to ask, because I think what we do is probably underpriced and in some quarters unappreciated. So I know all of you appreciate it, or you wouldn't be listening. But if you can tell your friends to give us $10, $50, $100, our gifts have been averaging about $150 a piece. It's pretty amazing. But go to Riley'sFarm.com/strong and help us out. We'll have more news tomorrow. Thank you.